Hey, Toker fans, how you doing? Doing something a little different today. Not a commentary or a video. It's a strict podcast, although I will be uploading it on YouTube and Rumble and wherever else I upload podcasts. There's a few places. But yeah, if you aren't getting my podcasts or you listen to or use like a podcast platform that I don't have it uploaded on, yeah, just leave me a comment and I'll try to get it uploaded. I've been trying to get it uploaded or I did try to get it uploaded on Spotify, but I gave up because I can't figure out what's wrong. Something with my account keeps screwing things up, but if I get requests to get it on Spotify, I'll figure it out. Anyways, yeah, this podcast is basically I'm just gonna talk about TV shows or movies I'm watching recently a little bit, and then I'm gonna do some news stories at the end, and yeah, it should be fun for everyone. So, I guess I have a TV actually paused right now on the X-Files, so that'll probably be one of the first ones I'll talk about. Also, I'm watching, or I just finished watching the Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, and yeah, I really enjoyed that show, but yeah, I think I might get more into that depth with that one as well, because got canceled after the second season, and after watching the second season, I kind of see why it started to bleed viewers, even though I don't think the show was bad itself, but yeah, I'll get into that in a minute. But seeing how I have it paused in the X-Files theme song, it says the X-Files on my TV right now. I guess we'll start with the X-Files. I'm rewatching the X-Files. And I did the first episode for the podcast or / YouTube page or whatever you want to call it. I did the pilot episode. I did a commentary for it. It's honestly, the X-Files definitely has one of the best pilots out there. Just because it's like perfect. It gives you like everything you need to know about the show. First episode, you know what's going down. The show's about aliens and weird things. And yeah, they did a great job because it's like so dark and like literally dark. It like really plays well for horror shows. One thing I've noticed about Supernatural too, because like you go back, like first season was almost 20 years ago now, and it like looks like way better because it's a horror show. Like I always find horror looks better when the older it gets because it's like, I don't know, makes it look darker, and that really works well for horror, I think. But yeah, the X-Files definitely has that going for it. Like looks aged and dark, and yeah, it like really creeps you out. And then I find like the first 5 seasons of the X-Files did that really well. And yeah, after they left Vancouver and moved to California, everything kind of lightened up, eh? I think you'll notice that immediately. If anyone was like watch the show, you'll notice that it's like definitely like much nicer. It's kind of like that was I gonna say. Oh yeah, and like, but I could say continue watching the show. Like a lot of people like their favorite seasons are season 6 and 7, but for me, I kind of find those seasons are like they kind of push the whole like Mulder Scully like relationship thing maybe a little too much, and they did like way too many like funny episodes. But I can see why it became like incredibly popular with those seasons. But yeah, it just doesn't have the same vibe as the first 5 seasons, which is like really dark and dreary. And what can I say? It's awesome, and it works well because it's like creepy and mysterious. So you want it to be dark as fuck. Also, I kind of like Agent Doggett. If anyone who hasn't watched the X-Files, I think he's great. And like I found that season 8 and 9 are a little underrated, but I think if you go into them, because I knew beforehand like Mulder wasn't going to be in the season 8 and 9, so I think if you go in knowing like way ahead of time, it's not so bad. It still sucks because Mulder is the best character on the show, but yeah, I like Doggett too. Honestly, they probably shouldn't have continued the show. They should have been like, yo, we'll just do movies from here and like do a movie every like 5 years or something. Continue this. And yeah, I think they bled quite a few viewers with the season 8 and 9. Like the show actually like that was actually canceled because even though they were given a heads up and were able to end the show pretty good, it was canceled because it was starting, well, without Mulder, it just didn't have the same effect on people. People were pissed, so that happens. Like I said, it's kind of hard to get rid of most people's favorite character. I don't think Scully's anyone's favorite character, but I could be wrong. Yeah, overall, yeah, the X-Files is great. Definitely push TV to the next level, I think. And obviously, people know I'm a Supernatural fan, so and a lot of the same people who worked on the X-Files worked on that Supernatural as well, and you can kind of tell in the early seasons of that show, it's kind of has the same vibe. And eventually, like in the early seasons of Supernatural, they had disguises and things when they go in. Like sometimes they're cops, sometimes they're like clean guys, but eventually they just drop the whole pretense of ever being anything but FBI agents. It's easy, and like most people are gonna let it fit in. So eventually, Supernatural is like very much like the X Files because they just are FBI agents essentially, except they don't work for the bureau. Yeah, if you're like anything like if you like anything like UFO or conspiracy related, you'll probably like the X Files if you haven't watched it already. And it's fun. And Mulder's like he's a great character. So is Scully too, but she's annoying because she doesn't believe anything no matter how much crap she sees. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little hard to fucking deal with sometimes. I mean, even Mulder, he's just like, I can't remember what episode it was, but he's like, oh my god, Scully, like after everything we've seen, like why is it so hard for you to believe in things? Like, fuck. That's like understandable though. After a while, you think maybe she's just like, she's just being a bitch. But anyway, she's a good partner. I think I probably brought it up on the pilot episode commentary I did that she like definitely sticks up for Mulder a lot, the agency and stuff. She definitely drank his Kool-Aid early and often. Like pretty much by the second episode, she's like, yeah, I'm just gonna follow this guy around for the rest of my life. But yeah, so that would be the X-Files. Definitely a good show to check out. So, another show I want to talk about, because I'm not sure when this is going to come out, but it'll probably be after I release my next commentary. Also, by the way, if I have a weird work schedule, so I can't usually like release a video exactly like a week apart. Sometimes it's a little more. But if I've never gone over 2 weeks, I don't think. So if it's been like a week or so and you haven't seen anything on my YouTube page, it's probably up in Rumble, and YouTube probably like stopped it because of copyright reasons. It's hard to get by that sometimes. Sometimes it works fine, and I can like put add video and shit, and it's no problem. But sometimes it doesn't. It's completely random. Usually, like sometimes I can go back and fix it if I know for sure like it's something I can take out. But sometimes their like reasons are a little vague, and I don't know. But anyway, if you don't see anything, like everything's up on Rumble. So if you haven't seen anything from me and you're curious, it's up on Rumble. That's the place where everything is up. They don't give a shit, so it's not as good of a platform like as a user experience, but still, I mean, it's it works. One thing I don't know, maybe they fixed it, but I know if I watched a video on there and I stopped it like halfway through, then I went back to the video and started it again, and it started at the very start of the video. It didn't leave off where I left off, so that was annoying. Hopefully they fixed that. It's pretty stupid. Especially where it seems like it's pretty standard in most like viewing apps. But yeah, the movie or commentary, this will probably come out after it, but it's Dirty Work with Norm Macdonald. And that just made me I had to go back and watch an old sitcom with Norm in it. It was called The Norm Show. And man, if you like Norm Macdonald at all, like this show is fucking hilarious. There's only 3 seasons of it, which sucks because you blow through it so quickly. But man, it's like a laugh a minute. And yeah, if you can't track it down, and I don't know how I know this, but it is up on the Pirate Bay, and I'm pretty sure no one will care if you download it. And I don't know this for sure, but the links are good. I don't know how I know that, but they probably are good. So, but yeah, I just rewatched that show, The Norm Show, and man, I have to say it is like definitely one of the best comedies I've ever seen in my life. It sucks that it got canceled, but yeah, Norm kind of like didn't do much after that. He did like a couple shows here and there, but yeah, it sucks. But yeah, it has like the exact comedy of Dirty Work. Even a couple of the jokes from Dirty Work made in the Norm show, because like Norm was a producer and writer on it as well, and Artie's in it, and Artie Lang's also in Dirty Work. So yeah. So yeah, if you're looking for a good comedy from the late '90s sitcom era, then that's one. But yeah, Norm, he basically just plays the same character as Mitch in Dirty Work. So if you've ever seen Dirty Work and like it, then you'll like the Norm show or anything else that Norm's done. So honestly, I think it's one of his best things. He's a brilliant stand-up too. I fucking miss that guy. So that's another little recommendation for me. But I think the last show we'll talk about is Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles. Yeah, so this show, that's honestly the only thing Terminator I've really liked after Terminator 2. I think a lot of people feel that way. They pretty much shit all over that fucking franchise. Even James Cameron came back to fucking kick it while it was down for some reason. I have to admit I haven't seen Dark Fate yet, but the way people seem to react to it, it sounds like a movie I probably won't like. And I think Genesis suffered from one thing that every fucking Terminator thing has suffered from, which is they just tried to remake the second one. Not 100%, but they just wanted to make a big action movie. They kind of forgot the whole part of, it's a horror movie at its roots. I think that's one thing the Sarah Connor Chronicles did really well for the first season and a half. But I'll get more into that as we go along. But yeah, I feel like that's like really what's held the franchise back. Too much CGI, too much like not rated R enough, and like, yeah, it's like people miss, like they see the big part of it. Like they watch Terminator 2 and like, oh, this is an action movie, and it is, but it's a horror movie. It's like bones. Like there's a lot of horror in that movie, and started out like the first Terminator movie is definitely a horror film with some good action. But yeah, they kind of forget about that. But that's one thing about the Sarah Connor Chronicles that really impressed me. Like you really feel like the fear and like they're being chased down, even though they have their own Terminator. It's still definitely frightening. I don't want to give too much away. I kind of want to talk about one scene though. It like really fucking freaked me out. But I don't know if you'll be expecting it at the right time. But yeah, Sarah, everyone leaves the house and Sarah is like alone in the house. And she's just doing some work around the house and like the camera's just on her, You're not really thinking anything in the scene, then all of a sudden someone grabs her and it's a fucking Terminator. Like I was like, oh shit, I was not expecting that. Like that's the kind of shit that happens and it's very like scary because the robots do get pretty close to killing them. And the obviously it's like a show from the 2000s. I think 2007 was when it came out, but so there is some bad CGI in it, but there's some really good special effects in that show. Overall, I'd say it's a good special effects show, and that's probably one of the reasons it got cancelled, but just for being too expensive. But I think if they had the viewers, they would have kept going. But one thing, like the first season is like I'd say like one of the best Terminator things I've ever seen, but the second season is a lot different. Like I'd put it closer to the X-Files actually, because there's like a lot less action, a lot more story driven. And I think that's where they lost a lot of viewers, because not only was it story driven, but they had a lot of mysteries and things going on with the time travel and stuff. They never like really gave you like any like hint or not hints or any answers, like not enough to keep you going. It's just kind of like you hit a brick wall constantly, like throughout the second season with mysteries, and you're like, what the hell is going on here? Like and if you're into like the X-Files, like I said, or like Lost, you probably would like the second season quite a bit, but compared to the first season where it balanced that more, also it gave you answers. Which, yeah, like, because the show got canceled, they never answered like a shit ton of the questions, but that's why it would have been nice to kind of, if there's more like cookie crumbs there, you kind of could have pieced things together ourselves, but now there's just, I can go on Reddit right now and there's probably a lot of threads and theories, but it's all speculative. Because there's not enough evidence to really like swing one way or the other, so it's unfortunate that it got canceled, but I understand why it started bleeding viewers, because first season did pretty well, but I think if they kept the same viewership, they probably would have got a third season. Just because of the brand name as well. But yeah, like, it just not enough happened in the second season. If it was like a shortened, like 12 episode season, it would have been fine if with all the mystery and stuff. But like I said, it kind of felt repetitive when nothing was getting solved. It's just kind of like you're hitting the same wall. And I can definitely see why it would turn people off eventually. Especially if you're watching it week to week. I watched it all at once because, you know, I own the DVDs. So I didn't have to wait like a week. But yeah, going through it all at once was definitely the best way to do it. But it got canceled and it definitely left a huge fan base, which is, it kind of sucks like the 2000 to 2010 because like network television didn't know how to like really measure how many people were watching it because like obviously the internet and pirating and eventually streaming services. But yeah, like networks had like no idea if they had a huge hit on their hands, and I think that's like Firefly and like all those shows that Fox canceled in the 2000s, the aughts. Like there was quite a few that had large fan bases, but just weren't watching it in real time because who the fuck does that anymore? So yeah, they let that show go, and there's definitely a huge fan base for it online. Although I don't think it'll ever be back. Although I wish it would. Except that kid who played John Connor, he's about the right age to come back as John Connor now. But yeah, I don't know if they brought it back now, I'd probably kind of ruin it. But yeah, so the show has a lot of fans, and it's just another one of a long line of fucking Fox shows that got canceled that had huge fan bases. I guess most of them are probably made by I almost said Joss Whedon, because I know Firefly, Dollhouse. What else did he do for them? Did he do any other shows? Okay, let's move beyond the Joss Whedon. So we got Dollhouse, Firefly. I know Fringe did get 5 seasons and it did end, I think. I skipped the last season. I haven't gotten around to watching it. But that was another show that probably should have went longer. Or could have went longer. What else we got? I said Dollhouse already. Fuck. Oh, obviously Terminator. Fuck. But, man, I need a list. I probably should have made a list before I started this. Whatever. But you guys know. There's like a bunch of shows that Fox have canceled over the years. Like, Almost Human's another one, Carl Urban. That was pretty cool. But yeah, like, they have like, Fox is always great at taking like risks on these like fucking weird like concepts and then like canceling it when people don't catch on to it immediately. Which is fucking dumb when you consider like one of the biggest successes of all time was the X-Files. A show that like, the first 2 or 3 seasons, it was like pretty under the radar. Then like eventually I tried to look up like when it became actually popular. I guess I could look up the viewership, but because like they're definitely wasn't doing great. Also, one of their biggest comedies of all time, Married with Children, it barely had any viewers for years. It wasn't until like some like lady filed a complaint against it, and then it made the news, and then people were like, "Hey, some woman hates this show. It must be hilarious," and that's how that show became popular. But yeah, I think Fox would learn their lesson when they have some like quality shows, science, especially in the sci-fi genre, because there's not enough good ones out there, in my opinion. Yeah, so Fox dropped the ball, I think. But I can kind of understand. This is one show I can see like real time how they lost viewers. But if you're like a sci-fi person like myself or fantasy, like I think you'll want to finish it. Although it is aggravating when a good show has a fucking cliffhanger, you'll never get to find out the answers. Anyways, I think that's probably enough for talking about my TV shows for today. And let's do some news. I don't have a news song yet. Yeah, so first up, I'm sure a lot of you have heard about the new Star Wars trilogy coming up, Rey Skywalker coming back. Yeah. And, shitty. No one's excited. Yeah, everyone seems pretty much writing this movie off, and I can completely understand why. So some people are trying to say it's like misogyny or something stupid like that, but I think if you have like any kind of common sense, you can kind of see where this is going, regardless of who's the lead character in these movies. I mean, first thing that came out, and the woman directing it, what's her name? Sharmin Obadad Chinoy. She Sorry, I have no idea how to pronounce her name. But she basically came out and said all this like crazy shit like, oh, I want to make men uncomfortable and shit like that. So, I mean, I think people might be more receptive to a new Star Wars even with a female lead if they came out and were like, look, we're going to tell the best story we possibly can. And yeah, but they haven't said that. It's pretty much like before when Disney first bought Star Wars and they were doing the whole Force is female bullshit, which doesn't really make any sense. The Force is neither male nor female, it's an entity. But, you know, they've never said anything about plot or character or anything like that. They're always talking about this fucking political bullshit. So, it's kind of hard to get excited when they clearly don't give a shit about making a good story. And I think that's all it is. So I'm not excited for the Star Wars either. I haven't been for a while though. I think pretty much after the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show, which I did like when I first watched it, but then I kind of realized later after someone pointed out some things to me, I was like, uh-oh, I've been tricked. They basically just brought back characters that I loved, and that was enough for me. Get me excited, bringing back Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen. So I'm like a lot of people, I fell for that. But yeah, after that, I really didn't give a shit. Also, once I found out that to understand events in the Mandalorian Season 3, I'd have to watch Book of Boba Fett. And I was like, yeah, I've not heard anything good about this show at all. Kind of want to watch Andor too, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to get into Star Wars right now when there's like so much bad Star Wars out there. And it sounds like it's just going to keep coming, so. Yeah, I think I'm just going to like find new franchises. Because there are quite a few sci-fi and geek franchises out there, so I mean. That whole like Henry Cavill has that Warhead, is it Warhammer fucking 40k? I don't know much about that, but there's like a massive like backstory to that. I actually tried to look it up and I had no idea. Like there's like so much. So I'm kind of hoping that that new Warhammer thing he's doing will be like my new Star Wars or something. But we'll see. Like I said, I don't know anything about it, so I just know there's a ton of lore behind it, which is always interesting to people like me. And maybe I'll get into Lord of the Rings as well. I did start reading Lord of the Rings, but I have to finish it. I'm not the Ring of Powers though. I think I'll skip that. I've heard so many bad things about that show. I can't believe it got a second season, to be honest with you. But maybe I'll check it out to make fun of it. I don't know. I just hate wasting my time. Yeah, so that's Star Wars news. So on the Star Wars front, the news is don't get excited. Alright, next story. Should I do that between each story? Next story. No. So, Tom Cruise just inked a massive deal with Warner Brothers Studio. And yeah, they basically admitted that they need him because they've been failing fucking badly. I don't know if anyone remembers last year or the year before they had to cancel a pretty much finished movie just because they knew it was going to bomb so badly. It was the Batgirl movie. And there's rumors about them wanting to cancel other movies too, but I'm not sure. I don't think anything else got canceled, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, obviously Tom Cruise is still lighting it up even though he's like well into his 60s, or probably just turned 60, I believe, but he's an old feller now, but according to Warner Brothers, they fucking need him. And they do. They need his star power right now because he's like the only one who made any money last year at the box office. So according to Geek Culture Online, Cruise is also very enthusiastic about this. And he has great respect for David, Pam, and Abby, or Pam Addy. Is that how you pronounce it? Abdi? No, sorry. Abdi? Fuck, doesn't matter. Anyway, but the quote is, Tom Cruise is happy, and they're happy to have him. And they should be, because the guy fucking is money. And yeah, I still haven't watched the new Mission Impossible movie yet, but I've heard like really good things, even though it didn't do the best at the box office, but I did watch Top Gun Maverick, and that was fucking great. It's actually the first time I've ever watched the Top Gun movies. My buddy's like, "You never watched Top Gun before?" Just like everyone, I tell people I've never watched Jurassic Park or E.T. Like, what? How dare you? But I watched it, I loved it, and then we watched the newest, like, Maverick fucking Top Gun movie, so that was awesome. And, yeah, so I definitely enjoy things with Tom Cruise in it, and I love the Mission Impossible movies. The only one I didn't like was the second one. The third one, the J.J. Abrams one, kind of got me back into the series, but, I've rewatched them all recently, and, I have to admit that back, I think Ghost Protocols #4, when that movie, like, really brought it back for me. I really liked that one, and from there on. Is that Ghost Protocol? Fuck, I can't keep them in order, but either way, I've enjoyed most of the Mission Impossible movies, and I will be watching Dead Reckoning at some point soon. I never go to the theater, I have to be honest. I should, but I haven't since before COVID. But yeah, I should really make an effort to go see more movies at the theater and support them. Especially if Tom Cruise is going to be in them, but I guess if they're going to keep making Star Wars movies, they're going to make them, not going to draw me back in. And believe me, I used to go see everything Star Wars. Everything. If it was in theaters, I was there. And, yeah, that's not happening no more. Anyways, on to the next story. Next story! So, Dexter 2, their website, I believe that's how you say it, Dexter 2. Let's try that. They just wrote an article for, novices and people who don't really read comics anymore. It's kind of their new beginner's list for people who are trying to get into Batman. And I've read, there's 5 Batman fucking stories they're going to recommend here, and I've read 3 of them. I used to be pretty into comics, but there's definitely, like, I didn't get into as much as some people. But I definitely have a good knowledge of the comic book universe, at least Marvel and DC and some other stuff. But Spider-Man and Batman are my favorites, so that's mostly what I know. But yeah, so they have it's a pretty good list. The other 2 I didn't read, they sound pretty interesting, so I recommend those. You check those out as well. But their list goes as follows. But this is the list. And obviously, some of these are going to be pretty obvious that they'd be on there. So, first one, or number 5, I should say, is Batman Year One. It's a Frank Miller gem. And actually, I didn't realize till like 3 months ago that Batman Year One came out after The Dark Knight Returns. I guess in my head, it would make sense that they'd tell the young Bruce Wayne story first, but not the case. But still a very good comic. Not as good as The Dark Knight Returns, but amazing in so many ways. It's kind of cool. Like, it's different probably most retellings of Batman's origin story, but kind of shows him like what do I want to say, like kind of figuring out the whole Batman thing better than I find other adaptations. You know, it's kind of cool when he first gets back from training. They don't show any of his training. The Batman Year One starts out with him arriving back in Gotham after he got all of his years of training. Because he left when he was like 15, I think, to start his little adventure. But so he's about 25, 26 when he arrives back in Gotham. But yeah, essentially, like, when he starts out, he just tries to like wear a disguise and like go out like as a normal person. But then he realizes it didn't really work out well for him. So he devises, after a bat flies through his window, he realizes like, well, it's a sign from God. I have to be a Batman. There's no other choice. I gotta be a Batman or a Glass Man. Which one do you want me to be, Alfred? Alfred's just kind of like, bats sound good, I guess. It seems like you're going through a psychotic break either way, so I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter what you pick. But yeah, then, kind of shows Gordon coming up too. I don't believe he's Commissioner Gordon yet. He's just a detective in this. But it shows Gordon in a pretty badass light because he has to fuck some people up, and it's pretty cool. But yeah, kind of just like, tells Batman's first year, he battles police corruption, which is his big thing. And this one, there's like no supervillains in this one, I don't believe. But that's kind of what makes it good. Kind of shows why Batman kind of does what he does. And a good starting point. Next we have Batman Rebirth. Number 4, I should say. I've never read this, but I have heard of it. You know, Batman goes to war with Bane, hangs out with his old man from Flashpoint, the Thomas Wayne Batman, and he bangs Catwoman a bunch, and they almost get married, and then they don't, and a lot of people are pissed off, including myself, even though I actually haven't read it yet. From what I've heard, it's not a perfect run, but it's pretty good for longtime fans looking for like a modern title. I know I really did get into the New 52 for a few issues, but this is Rebirth. This is like this. I think all Rebirth was like a soft reboot of the New 52, if I'm remembering that correctly, but I heard it's quite good, and I haven't read it yet. But like I said, I've heard good things, and this sounds like a good recommendation to me. If you want to check it out, give me a heads up. Maybe I'll check it out myself. And number 3 is another one I haven't read. Also I should say, number 4 was Tom King, and so is this one. And I've heard good things about him, I think. I've heard the name, let's just say that. I'll assume it was something good. But Batman, the Brave and the Bold, the winning card. And like I said, it's another Tom King entry. And it sounds like an interesting story, sort of like a telling or retelling of the Joker and Batman's first encounter. Me personally, I think the Joker's kind of been overused by DC for like the last probably 15 years, but it's kind of like Venom 2 in the 90s for Marvel. Like, once a villain becomes like super popular, they try to like shove them into everything, and it gets annoying after a while, but people really do love the Joker, so. And he's an interesting character to write. I don't find Venom is like super interesting, where Joker, at least he has some interesting fucking aspects to his personality. Venom's a little one note. He does have like some like, Eddie Brock has some depth to him, but overall, I've just never really been a fan of the character. But yeah, there's another like good Joker story, hopefully. And you guys check it out. You guys let me know. Like I said, I don't really read comics anymore, especially because like Marvel and DC are like a super bummer right now. I keep tabs, but I don't really read too much. But from what I've heard, people I know who read comics, they are not happy right now. But yeah, keep blaming the fans for not buying comics. Blame digital media too, even though people have been downloading comics for like 25 fucking years now, but it's only recently the comic book store has been closing down as fast and as often as they have. But yeah, it's the fans' fault. It has nothing to do with the quality of the comics that are coming out. Anyway, went on a little tangent there. Anyways, number 2, which probably should be number 1 in my opinion, but it's The Dark Knight Returns. And I think everyone knew that this story was going to be on here. It's the ultimate Batman story in my opinion. I find like sometimes, especially in like more modern comic books I have read of Batman, he's always been more of like a Punisher type, even though he doesn't kill, but he does the whole war journal thing, and he's like way more stoic than even he needs to be. Yeah, I don't know. I just like never really liked him that way, and The Dark Knight Returns is kind of cool because it kind of shows a little more emotional depth to the character, and also it shows like he took it very personally. The failing, he kind of saw himself as a failure in this one. That he failed in his war and crime, but kind of like how personally he takes it. Especially the things the Joker did. He really does not like that guy. And the Joker and him he has like, it's great like about this one. It's also written by Frank Miller. But like, whereas Year One had no supervillains in it, like The Dark Knight Returns definitely had a few good ones I really enjoy. I think Two-Face, Joker, also Superman's in it, so that's great. He's also they do reference Superman in Year One, because Alfred's like, hey, are you gonna start flying around like that guy in Metropolis? And Bruce Wayne just rolls his eyes like, no, I'm not a fucking alien. You know me my whole life. Yeah, The Dark Knight Returns is great. Also, they have like a couple new villains and a new Robin too, and she's awesome. Carrie Kelly. Yeah, I like her. She's cool. And but yeah, they also have the mutant leader, so he's like a new villain, and he's like great. Him and Batman get into a couple altercations, and they're really good. So yeah, definitely check that out. That's he's like in his 50s in that one, Batman. He hasn't been Batman for about 10 years because of reasons, but it's all in the comic book, so I highly recommend everyone check it out. And honestly, it's kind of weird because it actually has a lot of things in common with Watchmen. So that's kind of cool. But they came out like right around the same time, so that's kind of cool. I like that. But they do it in their own way, so I don't think anyone ripped anyone off. It's just two great stories that kind of came out and have similar kind of things, similar views on things, or similar talking points. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, I highly recommend The Dark Knight Returns if you haven't read it. Or there's also a animated film, like a direct adaptation of it, and it's perfect. So definitely, if you don't want to read it, watch that. And number one is a very good comic. And I don't know if I'd put it at my personal number two, but it's very good. The Dark Knight Returns is my favorite, but this one it's actually the comic book that The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight, is based off of. Even though they're very, very different, but there's some elements from the comic book that made it over into The Dark Knight. And yeah, I think it's 12 issues long. I can't remember because it goes from, I think it's a whole year long arc. I think you can probably get it in graphic novel form now, like as one, but essentially the Dark Halloween, or Long Halloween, I should say, tells a story of like how Batman and Harvey Dent are friends, and then eventually Harvey becomes the Two-Face. And yeah, the Mob and the Joker, I believe, are big parts of this, and another villain called Holiday. But yeah, you have to read it. I think that's the only time Holiday's ever brought up. But either way, it's a fun comic, and yeah, like I said, one of the best Batman movies ever is based off it. So I highly recommend it. And I think Long Halloween's makes on every like Batman fucking top comic list, and for good reason. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. Hopefully I'll be doing this at least once a month, doing a little podcast on what I'm watching and a little bit of news. And yeah, if you want to request I upload the podcast somewhere that it's not available right now, just let me know. And yeah, thank you.